Greetings, YouTube. I apologize for the hood. There's a cat on my back, and the bright and cheery lights are on at the moment because this is a grim and dark topic I'm about to cover. So, I want you to imagine for a moment that you are a bad guy. 60 minutes from now, your plot will come to its fruition, and a room full of puppies and nuns shall be obliterated. You've been captured by the good guys. You need to delay them for an hour. It's crunch time, folks. An hour. You look at the clock. 59 minutes. The good guys ponder what to do. Will they cross that line? Will they make the hard choice and use enhanced interrogation techniques to get the information out of you as to the location of the room full of puppies and nuns? They decide, we have to. We have no choice. One of them steps up, and I'm not going to call them enhanced interrogation techniques any longer. I'm going to call them what they are. They use torture on you, the bad guy. Now, you're an average bad guy. You're clever. You're diabolical. You're evil. But your will isn't any particularly stronger than anyone else. You hold out for 10 minutes. You then tell the good guys the location of the room full of puppies and nuns. The good guys race off the room full of puppies and nuns to get there to find that it's empty. In the distance, they hear a muffled explosion. They lose. Now, that isn't a particular heroic scenario, is it? The good guys lose. When crunch time came around, they made a moral choice which has forever changed who they are, potentially where the direction of the campaign goes, and yet they still failed. Because that's what you have to do if you're a bad guy in the crunch time scenario. You lie. You mislead them. You give them false information. And if your will is actually as strong as, adamantium, you tell them nothing, and you still achieve your goal. You, in essence, cannot lose. Because when it comes to crunch time, you have something in your favor. Reality. The only reason the crunch time scenario works in fiction is because the main characters have the power of the author, the scriptwriter, both of whom want the heroes to win. Both of whom have fallen into the false belief that the crunch time scenario is reality. But it isn't. There are no circumstances under which the crunch time scenario works. There are no circumstances under which the crunch time scenario actually exists. It is an artificial argument. It is a mental exercise to give people the ability to justify torture. They can convince themselves that under these incredibly tight, limited, constrained circumstances, it's okay to cross that moral line. Except it isn't. It doesn't get you what you want. So all the bad guy has to do under those circumstances is lie or delay. But see, once you've bought that, once you said that under these circumstances, torture's okay, the next time, the definition of the circumstances gets a little wider and a little easier to make. And easier. And easier. And easier. Do you get to the point where it's acceptable if cops pepper spray people for no apparent reason? Or they tase them? Or they beat them with their nightsticks? Or they rape them with their nightsticks? Well, why not? You've opened up those parameters as wide as they need to be to endorse your particular view. Because that's what you've done. You've decided that under whatever circumstances you've chosen, crossing that moral line is now no more difficult than walking down the block. Torture isn't about gathering information, folks. It never has been. It isn't good at it. Talk to actual intelligence people, and they will tell you this. Torture is about hurting people because you can. Hurting people because you want to. Hurting people because you enjoy it. You give someone a power and authority over a helpless human being, and strange things happen. That artificial scenario, the crunch time scenario I have described, doesn't exist in the real world. Do you know how you stop bad guys in the real world? Investigation. You gather evidence. You talk to witnesses. You get people to turn. You use methods that have worked, tried and true, for centuries. Bribery. Threat of incarceration. Deportation. There's lots of ways of doing it. None of them involve torture. There's lots of legal means of using it, of doing it, of achieving it. And none of them involve torture. Torture is about harming helpless human beings because you can. And that's my position on it. And I don't want to witness it. I don't want to watch it in fiction. I don't want to see it in TV, in movies. I don't want to read about it in books. I know history. I understand it. I know that there are human beings capable of doing things that would sicken you, that would turn you off from the ability to eat, that would make you crawl into a fetal position in the corner and weep in fear that there were human beings like that in the world. I get it. I don't need artificial scenarios to justify emulating their actions. It sickens me that there are people in the world that want to create those artificial scenarios so that they can justify torturing another human being. I know this is harsh. I know that my position is not popular. But torturing people isn't going to get you anything other than the actual goals of torture. Personal gratification of the torturer. That's all it does. And if you have someone in your custody long enough, you'll get them to admit anything. At one time, the United States had an individual in custody for 3 years. They waterboarded him 183 times. You give a talented torturer 3 years and access to any kind of method they want to use that many times. And in the year 2013, they could get a prisoner to admit to assassinating Abraham Lincoln. And the prisoner would believe it. With every fiber of their being would they believe it. They would swear on a stack of Bibles that they did it just to make the pain stop. That's my stance on torture. It may not be popular. It may alienate some people. Now, I won't predict how people will react to this. I've been told recently I shouldn't do that. But I can predict how I shall react. And you're not going to convince me that torture's good. You're not going to convince me that there's some justification for it. If somebody wants to harm another human being, I'm going to call them on that. I want to know why they want to harm, to torture a helpless human being. What do they gain from it? Because it isn't intelligence. They're not gaining information. They're just gaining power. And If the pursuit of ego is viewed as in a negative light in the modern world, the pursuit of power in that particular venue should be as well. I've gone on long enough. I suppose let cry havoc and let slip the comments of war